You're listening to the Tribe Nail Tech podcast, where nail techs find inspiration and motivation to take their career to the next level. We welcome you here. Now tribe up and slay your day. Here is your host, Becky Bunnell.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Tribe Nail Tech podcast. I'm your host, Becky Bunnell, and today's episode is sponsored by Sojel Nails. And today's guest is Miss Genesis Ward. How are you, Genesis?
I'm doing good.
Good. And you're coming from us from Colorado, correct?
Yep.
Awesome. What part of Colorado are you in?
Yeah, Colorado Springs.
Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Denver. Most people would be more familiar with Denver. So
Denver area. Well, First and foremost, thank you for saying yes and being a guest here today. And first of all, I love your name, Genesis. I have to know, is there a story behind that how did your parents come up with that? Is there a history behind that?
Definitely. And it has nothing to do with biblical at all, which most people, that's their first association, is that it came from a biblical, like my parents must have been involved in church or whatever. And that was nowhere near on their mind at all when they were trying to come up with it. So my dad wanted to name me Zeppelin. They were, big heavy metal fans. So he wanted to do that. And my mom said, no, like when the thought of like nicknames and stuff, she thought people would be running around calling me Zeppy. And I'm like, that's just weird. So he did his idea of being able to have a band or a group, and name your kid after that. So they both liked Phil Collins and the group Genesis. So they figured that it could go for either a boy or a girl. And that's kind of where it came from.
That is so cool. Oh my gosh. I had no idea. That is so awesome. I love it. Love, love, love your name. So a little bit about Genesis. She, some things that she's done over her little career here is in 2016, you were invited to be on the competition team for American International Industries is this for the Nail Pro Cup? Is it the same? Okay.
Yeah. At that point in time, I joined the team. They were only doing it through Nail Pro competitions. Allie had been doing other things for a while. Like she had competed in a lot more different type of competitions. But when they decided to expand on the team, and at that point in time, they were going to go from just having like the 1 or 2 members to having 5 team members on the IBD team that is owned by American International, and then 5 Easy Flow team members, even though like we're all under the same umbrella, right? And so I got to be a part of the IBD team for that. And I guess we did 3 years together as a team, if I'm remembering correctly. And then I did another 2 years by myself after that.
Well, and you said in 2018, you came in second place.
Yep.
How cool.
That was my first year of like really going in and competing. I came in really close to getting the cup, and I had no idea still even at that point how everything worked, because not having competed before at all, jumping into that, there's so many different things that you learn along the way. And so in the beginning, points wasn't even a thought in my mind. So it was actually Allie, after we did the ice show in January, that she said, hey, Nail Pro posted points, did you know that you're in first place? And I'm like, well, that's crazy, and then I dove into more of understanding how exactly the Nail Pro Cup works and whatever. So that year, I ended up finishing off second place, and I thought, okay, now that I know what this is, I really need to try to go for it. So that whole year, the next one that I came in second place again, me and Gwen were both going back and forth. We wanted to get the cup. So in the end, she took over hold. I don't remember how many points difference is, but she took the cup home for that one. So it's definitely something that I want. It's now in my I want it to be a bucket list thing.
Yes.
During all of like this COVID stuff, it's gotten weird because a lot of competitions have had to shut down because they take places at the shows. Mm-hmm. So shows are closing or canceling or rescheduling. I'm not sure at this point in time because Nail Pro now is only doing one show a year, and that's going to be in January again at the ICE show. So who knows if we'll be back in business by that time again for me to compete.
That's just crazy. But a lot of people in the industry, I'm surprised, don't even know that there are nail competitions. Like I've come across people and they're like, wait, what? There's nail competitions? And I'm like, where have you been? So tell people, like, tell us, like, how do the competitions work? How do you prepare for that? How does how does the layout go? Like, I mean, some people just have no idea and I've never competed myself. I've kind of crept up, watched a few from a distance, this and that, and, watched that on social media of, the standings and things like that through Nail Pro but talk a little bit about it. Like people that have no idea about competitions, like what all goes into it. I know there's a lot, but if you can kind of just give us, yeah.
So I can only really speak more in detail about Nail Pro because I haven't done all the other ones.
Okay.
But the approach to any competition, you need to do your homework with it. Most of the judges that I've come across, or the competition people, they have been not only the judges for a while, but they also used to compete. They also still sat in the chair, and they're very personable. I haven't met one that when I asked them about the rules or what to expect, that they, turned me away or, gave me some kind of bad feeling or something because I wanted to know more. And for those who know me, I'm definitely a question asker because I need to make things make sense in my head. So for some people that can be more intimidating, but never once have I come across a judge that I asked them more about how everything goes and they turned away. So that would be my first step. Go onto their websites, investigate. Some do online competitions, so you could submit them, even if the competition is going to be in Bologna or something. You can mail in your submissions ahead of time, and it gives you a chance to get your feet wet without having to spend the massive amount of money on flights, hotels, models, things like that. For Nail Pro specifically, they are only doing it one time a year now, and that is at the ICE show during that same weekend. So in a way, it kind of makes it a little bit simpler because when I was competing, in order to have a chance at the Nail Pro Cup, you had to do all 5 shows within that year because all 5 shows, the points from them then went into you being able to get the cup. So figure out what your goal is. Are you just going to do one to test the waters and see how it's going to go? And if not, if you want to go for the gusto, you need to figure out the details of how their competition is run to make sure that you don't, fall into a crack somewhere because every one of them is very different in how they're structured. They all post the rules of the competition and each one. So like, let's say soak off gel polish, you would have like one hand, if it's a 2-handed competition, you would have one hand be red and the other hand be pink and white. Some, it's only a one-handed. So on this, just the one hand, you would have 3 pink and whites and 2 reds. So it's very important that you not only pay attention to the rules of the general competition, but to the specific ones that you're wanting to compete in. And then for each competition, they have a judging criteria as well. Those 2 things for each competition or each individual portion of that competition, you have to pay attention to both of those things. The judges' criteria is going to tell you what they're looking for out of the pink and white. So, hey, I have to do a pink and white on 3 nails, but they'll tell you you're going to get 5 points for your smile line. You're going to get 3 points for your cuticle area or whatever. So it can give you a better idea of how it's broken down. And once you figure out which one you're going to compete in, then focus on, practicing within that time frame. So 30 minutes is what you have to do a 2-hand pink and white. And I would sit down there and practice either on myself or on my model from start to finish within those rules to gear myself up for that smaller time frame, because you might think, in the salon, oh, I can do a full set of that in no time, that this is going to be so easy. But following the rules and getting more perfection, it takes more time than what you would think. And the more time practice that you can get ahead of time, the less like jittery stuff that's going to happen during the competition. Because even still doing it as much as I have, your nerves are still going crazy. Your mind is racing. Do I have my station set up? Do I have my brushes? And, do I have all the supplies that I need? And I know that I do because of how I prepare, but your nerves go crazy. So if you can set yourself up, even station wise, you have your monomer right here, or your brushes right here, set it up that same way every single time as you're practicing. So that way, once you go into the competition, that part of your nerves isn't even there. You're worried about other things at that point in time. There are a few groups. I think Lauren Wireman was the one who started a competition group that you can submit your work into and get it judged by real judges from various different competitions. Nailympia, I think Allie's in there for Nail Pro, and Nailympian. So these are all certified judges that have been doing this, that you can, as a novice, not paid for, you don't have to do anything. It's just an open site that you can go to get feedback on your work. And hopefully that'll help you to be even more prepared, because we've seen some people that come to a two-handed competition and they only did the one hand because they read somewhere that it was 3 fingers and 2 red. So they can give you more tips and tricks heading into that with it. Packing your kit is another thing. The way that I pack my bags is to lay out everything on my station that I would need to do that particular competition, and then go step by step. I'm going to push my cuticles back. All right, my cuticle pusher's in my bag. I'm going to etch the nail plate. That file goes into the bag, because otherwise you're going to end up missing stuff. If you're doing multiple of them. So the best way to pack it is to go through step by step in your head of what the procedures are. So that way you have all of your little things. Because, like I like to use IBD's cuticle pusher to take off any excess product off the nail. I like that tool. It's something that to me is more essential to use just because of how it's shaped. I've gotten used to it. And so if I didn't have that, I could use my fingernail or something in a pinch, but it's not ideal to set yourself up for success.
Right.
What else? Timing, your kits. And I would say your mind frame is huge with it as well. Try to have people around you that are going to be very positive, because it's a very stressful environment, especially for the models. I started using the term like Team No Sleep in year 2, I want to say, because we would be up all night the night before practicing again and making sure that everything was ready and in place. And before you know it, midnight, 2:00 in the morning, and then you have to be into the competition arena at 6:00 in the morning to start. So no sleep is definitely for those 4 days of competing. That's what's going to happen. And you need to have a team of people around you that's going to be very supportive. They know my coffee, they know, where my water bottle goes, they know where everything my table setup is, so that they can help me throughout the entire process. And if I'm having a bad day because my C curves aren't coming out or something, my models are always through the whole competition, you got this, you're good, and timing. They're counting down for me, telling me, hey, you have 5 more minutes left on this finger. And it doesn't matter if it's not perfect, you need to finish. So after that 5 minutes, you're cut off, and they give me the next finger. So having a really good support team system with you is super important. If you can find somebody else who competes and would be willing to take you underneath their wing to even, help you at the competition or ahead of time, that's a good support system to be able to have. And even though we're all competing against each other, I want you to be able to have all the tools that you need, so that if I win against you, I'm not going to go, well, yeah, she didn't bring her lamp, so she couldn't finish, so I won. That's not good. Win by default. That's not cool. Like when Gwen beat me and got first place, she earned that. because we were both competing in everything. I didn't make it an easy situation for her to do that. And we can both look at each other's work and go, oh yeah, you could do more, you could do better here. You could do this here. And if either of us needed something, we're right there. And that's the way that it should be, because you fair, even playing field when you're doing it. So reach out to people that are doing it and get some help for sure.
That's awesome. So when you're going for the cup, how many categories are there? Or is it just, like you said, the red and the pink and whites?
For Nail Pro specifically, they would have hand turn-in stuff that you would do ahead of time and then turn them in at the competition. So they would normally do like a hand painted, a 3D, and then fantasy is kind of in that category because you do it ahead of time. And then on the last day, you would put everything on your model and then they judge them that way, but it's all pre-work. So you have that portion of it. And then you have your in-person competitions, which that can vary, but it would be pink or like gel polish, a traditional pink and white, or like a salon success pink and white. So they would be shorter, your average length, what would typically be in the salon.
Right.
But again, it's nothing like what you do in the salon.
Right.
That's the idea, but it's nothing like what you do in the salon. And then they would have the sculptured nails, which would be like the standard that would have been set by Tom Holcomb, where they're longer. Your nail bed length, normally it would be like a 1-to-1 ratio. Some countries measure it different, but most of them it's from the center of your cuticle to the center of your free edge. And then you have to extend it double what that length is. Not necessarily an elongated smile line, but more perfect smile line to complement, because your overall impression score, the prettier it is, the better score that you're going to get. That's definitely more, even though they have a novice category, it's more veteran stuff. Stilettos or stiletto design, that's a fun one. The requirements for that is they have to be a minimum of 2 inches long, one-handed. If I remember correctly, I think it's 3 hours long that you get from start to finish. It's either like 2.5, 3 hours. 5 style was another one they did in Vegas. So each nail, like a lot of the pictures you see coming from Europe, this one would be a stiletto. This one would be a Russian almond, but they all have to be pink and white. That's a 5-hour long competition. So it just depends on what their schedule is. And if you want to do the cup, then for Nail Pro, you have to enter into every single one of them if you want to win, because it's whoever has the highest points. So even if you win first place, and you would never get 100 points necessarily, like that would be the normal. Higher point scorings are like in between 88, 89. So if you got 100, like you're rocking it massive. That normally doesn't happen. But even if you're at the top of your class and whatever one you competed in, you're not going to win the cup if even one other person did 2 competitions and they didn't even place third place, because their points are going to add up to more than yours. If you're going for the cup, you're going to have to compete in a lot of the competitions.
When I taught on the Cruise with the Nail Stars, Katie Barnes came over, and she was kind of explaining a little bit about the competitions, and she had the little ruler measuring thing and all these things, and I was like, whoa, wait, what? And she's like, oh yeah, you measure this has got to be the same circumference here, and then the pink and the white has to be a certain, and she's showing us all this stuff, and I'm going, whoa. So I commend you to be able to have that kind of like those nerves of steel in a sense, because that would freak me out. I don't think I could ever do a competition. I never really had the desire. And I just think it's so awesome that you guys do that, because the pressure, like, I just think it's so cool. And I never thought about that with your models. So what do you look for in the model that you choose? Obviously it sounds like you kind of have the same person that you use every time.
And it's varied because of the fact that, just accessibility, and sometimes, they had a graduation to go to or something like that. But nail bed wise, if someone has, 1.5 centimeters, and that's again measuring from your cuticle to your free edge, if their nail bed length is more oval in shape and elongated, that's the best type of nail bed to look for, because even if you do Salon Success something super short, their nail beds already look amazing. So the overall impression, you've already scored, in that place without even having to put any product on. Personality wise, though, you really want someone that's more organized and that they're in it for you and all about you, because those 4 days, my models are princesses. They don't touch anything. I mean, other than showering and personal hygiene to themselves, I'm carrying the bags. I'm like, if they're eating something or whatever, and it could impede something that's previously done, they need to wear gloves, right? Because some of the competitions you have to pre-do the base, like bling. You have to pre-do your bottom, and then at the competition, you put all your rhinestones on. So they could be sitting there with these like 3-inch long nails on, on one hand of every single finger. You need to put a glove on because you're not putting your makeup on with your fingers. You're not getting your French fries. Like they have, dust or anything on the underneath of their sauce from something, and you don't happen to notice it, but they flip them over for the judges, and there it is because you couldn't get it out. You've now lost points.
Oh
So
my gosh.
princess as possible. And but they also, in saying they need to be helpful, but they're princesses. That's what I tell them. You be princess. But the timing, they are crucial, because even if if it's not the most perfect set, which most people in their head, they think that the competition nails are the most beautiful, perfect nails, whatever. Like, that's not what happens. Everybody has flaws. And if you had all the time in the world to create a competition stilettos or something, then yeah, they can be perfect. Mm-hmm. But when you only have that time frame, your model's in charge of the countdown. So a part of you practicing ahead of time is to say, hey, I need 30 minutes to be able to file my nails. So if it's a, hour and a half competition, that means that you only have an hour to be able to do, everything else. And at 30 minutes, they tell me, like, you're done. You now need to start filing. They have to be good with time management and be able to get through the grouchy, all those ups and downs, and be supportive with, they do coffee and food runs. They know when to go to the bathroom. That's another thing. If you have a 3-hour-long competition, they're sitting there for that amount of time as you're doing them, but then they also have to be judged, which that process, depending on what competition that you're entering into, that could be a 2-hour process. They've been now sitting there for 5 hours. So bathroom breaks are timed and everything to make sure that everybody's comfortable. I have heating pads for them, and they're basically trained. And the model that I've had for the longest amount of time, Audra, she started for me from the very beginning, and she was paying attention to things that I didn't even know that I needed to, because I was so new to it. She was looking around the room being like, hey, what's Susie Q doing? When's this person filing? What's this person doing? And she's like, that person has a clippy thing that you don't have. What's that clippy thing? Go find out what that clippy thing is. I'm like, what? They were doing what? And the models are cheating by like licking their fingers and all kinds of stuff. So your model definitely needs to be very organized and totally in it for you. I would almost rather have a model that doesn't have the 1.5 centimeter nail beds, have some flaws to them, because the organization piece of it is so crucial to you finishing each competition. And their attitude is so important with it. And I pay my models. And I think that's another part of it. If you have a really good friend of yours that you trust for a while, that's going to do it for you, great. But a lot of people show up to their competition, they prep their models the night before, and they don't show up. And waiting till like the competition time to find a model, prep them the night before, that makes me so nervous. Like Gwen, she would do that a lot. And I've told her every time, I'm like, you're making me so nervous. And she's like, oh, it's going to be fine. And I'm like, you can't just always trust pulling someone off the show floor.
Yeah.
Because all those other pieces and components are so important. Yeah.
That would be nerve-wracking. I actually, a couple years ago, got asked to be a hand model for Jory Durham. Is that how you say it? And she did the hand painted, like gel polish, and then it was in Vegas. And so she did the dice and all that. And man, that was just so cool. But I had never done anything like that before. And then, like you said, the judging part of it, it's like you sit there with your hands under that curtain for quite a long time. And so, wow, somebody that's doing that for 4 days with you, like that takes good dedication.
Yeah, 6 a.m. is normally when they start, where you can start setting up your table and everything. And then normally we leave like 4:30, 5 o'clock or so. But it takes longer time to like pack up everything again, to be able to go back to the hotel room, soak off, file off, whatever, to prepare them for the next day's competition. They're competing in everything. It is a very, very long and stressful weekend. And their nail beds too. You know, if you're good anyway, right? Like, I would think any good nail tech, under any conditions, they want to keep the person's nail beds really healthy.
Right.
Well, this situation, if you tell this person that within 2 or 3 days, I'm going to take on and off your nails 4 times, that's not healthy for your nail plate, even if you're doing it in a correct way and the most healthy way. My people know how to take care of themselves. Like, I use IBX on every single person in the salon, but that follows them too. So they're getting IBX in between each and every one of them, doing treatments, LCNs, the serum. I can't think of it right now, but it's part of their anti-age manicure. They know how to give themselves doing the scrub and the serum and the lotion. They sleep pretty. They sleep princess with the gloves on their fingers, and because their hands are important too, because they're getting dehydrated with everything that they're going through. So there's a lot that you don't think about on the outside of it until you run into an issue. And then you're like, oh, okay. And some of you were saying, like, just jumping into it. I had a massive advantage with having Allie Baker and the other part of the team, Katie and all them, that have competed before, because I was so nervous that I would not represent the brand well. You want to do good for yourself, but I was worried that the company would go, oh, she can't compete. Her nails are crappy or whatever. So I was very, very, very hard on myself with it. And they know that I'm a question asker. And I'm like, I would be in their hotel rooms watching them do 3D, even though I wasn't competing in 3D at that point in time, because I wanted to learn about all of that stuff. And I had a very good support system starting out. So I don't believe that anyone, even, not coming from a competition back or like being an educator for a company or whatever, no one should have to go into that environment blind, because there's so many resources out there. You just got to do a little bit of research. And the whole team took us underneath their wings, and we all learned from each other. And not every method is going to work. There's some ways that Allie does nails that it doesn't work for me. And then, like I always, from the beginning, I put all my forms on the 5 fingers at once, because I trust my model that she's not going to go pick her nose or do something crazy. She knows. She's a princess.
I love it.
Katie found out that I was doing that. She's like, we put them on 1 finger at a time. I'm like, that's too slow for me. I don't know how to do that. It's just a mind. So just because you're not going to do things or not necessarily end up doing things the same way that they did them, having that experience and the confidence that you get just from them, exuding from them, helped me out massively in the beginning.
That is so cool. So that's probably going to help a lot of people, because just me looking from the outside, that's very intimidating. It's like, oh, I don't competition, and so it's good to know that there is, that people are accepting of you and they want to help you and, give you their, it's like, hey, this is how you do this. This is how you do that. So I think that's awesome. I think that sounds really fun. So that you probably just love you were saying before that that's your new thing. Like, you just live for that. You love the competition scene.
Yeah, it was really hard. And I got super emotional when I found out that the Nail Pro competitions, that they were only going to the one a year.
Yeah.
Because the traveling expenses and things like that, whether you're sponsored by a company or not, like, there's still expenses that happen with it. and it was going to be easier not to travel the 5 times a year. But at the same time, you get into a rhythm of things. So once the previous competition ended, I know, hey, I have 3 months to get my hand painted, my 3D, my fantasy, whatever done. And so you're, developing that schedule and your routine of working on that next one. And then now I'm like, what do I do?
So
Like,
it's just going to be like one shot and then that's it. It's just going to be like, that's your one thing. It's not going to be the point system anymore. I mean, it'll be a point system, but on one competition, just like.
Yep.
So you feel like that's going to be more stressful, more pressure on you? And is it almost like, are you practicing throughout the whole entire year?
You should be.
Yeah, because you're not getting those competitions to work yourself up to it. It's just kind of like it's the Super Bowl without
no practice.
The playoffs and the games. It's just like, bam. So are you like a little bit?
I mean, and it is like now with all this COVID stuff, it's kind of messed with the stuff a lot. But my game plan after finishing the last competition, because like I said, I still want to go for the cup. So I don't even know if they've announced what the themes are for the next year yet. But you can't start working on the 3D or any of the hand turn-ins until they announce the themes for them.
Right.
So that it is best for you to be able to practice on the model that you are going to be using, because you find out, how do I need to cut my forms? How do I need to have them angle, their body, based upon how you file and what you do, and get in a rhythm with each other. But you coming from that in January, so both of my models had their nails taken on and off at least 4 times with the whole process. So I don't want to work on them in between, all the time, and take them off and put them on again for a whole time run, because that's going to destroy their nails.
Right.
So with my schedule with them, I give them the 3 months time frame before I would completely take them off and start them on again. I still do rebases on them in between, because it's good to have acrylic on their nails, because it helps with the C curve shaping. Mm-hmm. So you'll notice, like when you take your nails off, they either start to flatten out or they starting to do weird shaping things. So in order to keep the C curves consistent, they should have product on their nails in between each one of them. And acrylic is better because it's stronger, or even like a hard gel is okay. Just to keep their natural, their nail beds into that shape. So yes, you need to practice in between, but I have them scheduled out to where the only full-timed competition practice would be once every 3 months. And then I have people in between that have nail beds that are okay, that I practice on and do a full run with them as well. Okay. And then plus yourself, my nail beds are crappy. So when I practice on myself, I do nail bed extensions to still make it be the 1-to-1 ratio, and give myself the visual, as well as, keeping your hand trained. Because you're correct that when you're doing them 5 times or 5 a year, you don't necessarily have to practice in between, because you're coming from that one and still in your system. You should totally. You should practice as much as you can. That's your best chance of success. But you get into more of a routine, so your focus is on different areas at different points during that year. With this one, my model's nail bed should be absolutely amazing, when they get to there, because one of the competitions, when it was from Orlando to Vegas, it's only 2 weeks apart. So when we cut their nails super short to do them for soak off gel polish, they haven't even grown out enough. Like if their natural nail chipped or had an issue or something during that 2 week time frame, they don't even have enough growth, because that gel polish person then becomes a form competition, like a pink and white or something. So you have to take their free edge totally, completely gone. And that normally means an oval shape, right? Or a rounded shape. Mm-hmm. So them 2 weeks later into the soak off gel competition, it hasn't grown out enough for you to have a square free edge. If that would look better on them for that competition, you have to do oval, and you have to pray that they don't chip them or do anything with them, because there's very little to work with in that scenario. So yes, practice in between.
Oh, wow. Stressful. Well, I can't wait to see like what happens this year. And like you said, it's all up in the air, but Oh, it's so fascinating hearing all of this. So I'm so glad I got to talk to you, hear about this. But really now too, COVID, it's all messed everything up. But I want you to tell everybody, what has Genesis been doing the last few weeks since you said you started to work? Colorado opened back up their salons this week, kind of?
Uh, First is when they said that you could open back up. I personally didn't start then. I started back on the 6th because they didn't announce like the guidelines of it until I think like the 29th or something. And so even though we had an idea of
Yeah,
what to expect, I'm like, I'm not scheduling anybody until I know exactly what you are expecting of me.
right.
Because what I did in Georgia, like, no. Because first of all, so what I've been doing this whole entire time is making masks. If we still have a lack of proper PPE for the medical people that need this, I am not going to open back up and buy a whole bunch of gloves, buy a whole bunch of face masks, buy a whole bunch of all this stuff that is supposed to be going to the medical workers. So if Colorado was going to be extra about it, I wasn't going to do it. And I would just, I mean, I'm still going to make masks anyway, but I would have just been still full time making masks because it has been a very emotional thing for me that led me to start making them. So that would be exact polar opposite of why I started doing this. And it's not worth it to me to, I mean, yes, when you're doing someone's nails, it's not just about the aesthetics of the nails, right? You
Right.
know, the mental health part of it as well and keeping in touch with them. But
Yes.
I've been trying to, text and call and reach out to my clients in between too, my elderly people to be like, hey, do you need any food? Are you okay on this? Or how are you feeling? So I feel like the mental health part, I didn't necessarily need to be there in person with them doing their hands or their feet. Because I can help with that part, but I'm not going to take away equipment that should be for other people. So luckily, our state is not too extreme. And he even said, our governor said the reason why he was not going to go to extreme precautions is because of the fact that he didn't want to put even more of a hardship on businesses. So he was looking at it from a protection point, what is practical for a hairstylist or a nail tech to be wearing or procedurally wise doing that can still keep us safe. And went with that, with instead of saying now we're going to have the guards, in between people and all of that stuff, which doesn't matter how you feel about it. That's an extra expense, right? And
Yes.
depending
Yes.
on the quality of them or whatever. And if you've got 10 stations in your salon, there's a couple $1,000s done, just in trying to get back to work. So I was thankful for that. And I've always been a clean person anyway. My people know that. So that part of it wasn't a tough adjustment getting back into it. But I pray for the salons that are in those environments where they're having to do a lot more than even what is normally required, I guess. Because to me, wearing gloves and the masks, like you should do that anyway. So it's not that much extra. And I'm hoping that a lot of the salons are still going to survive through all of this stuff because a lot of people that I've been seeing are choosing to just go into a different profession because they couldn't afford to keep paying their booth rent or whatever this, for their salon space during that time frame, and they can't afford to like get back into the industry again. So I've been in a very, very fortunate position, I would say. Just randomly, I guess, I was very blessed with my vision and where it has led me.
That's awesome. I too worry about a lot of these. Some of these states have no end in sight yet. I mean, and they've been out for a very long time. We've been very blessed here in Utah also. Where I'm at, certain counties in Utah did shut down for a short time as far as salons go, but here in southern Utah, they did not. The health department never did shut us down. Now, I voluntarily took a couple weeks off because I have two littles and I needed to get home and figure out the homeschooling and all that crap that was happening. And so that was a stress for me. And I did have, I feel like every client was coming in and the stress of COVID and talking about it. And I was taking on all the negative energy because, we listened to it all day long and it was getting so heavy on me that I was like, okay, I got to tap out for a minute. Like time out. I got to So I left for like 2 weeks, and yeah, that's hard when you're like paying your booth rent for the month and you're going, well, and I'm not working for the next 3 weeks. It's like, it's scary. And those poor people have no end in sight, some of those states and the countries. And
Still,
so it's
they're
just insane.
like, they still haven't gotten the government stimulus, still
Yeah.
haven't been able to collect unemployment
Yeah.
because I know, I think there was a couple of other states that started maybe a week and a half or so before Colorado did, that they made it available to them. But forever it was, who knows, even though they made it, they passed the law, they did everything, both the systems and the individual states were not ready to, like, they needed to figure out the background type of stuff, like what rules do we need to have in place to make sure that they get reimbursement for whatever they're giving you. So all of those systems have to be set up, and it's like hurry up to sit and wait kind of a thing. So I would log on to the unemployment site every single day, and it just said, hey, check back with us, we'll announce it on media and whatever. And I've heard several people that they applied for the unemployment, got denied. Oh, I can't think. KT said she got denied because she didn't make enough money. And I'm like, how can they deny you employment? Like, you're making $9 a week. How are you not making enough money to get unemployment? They told you that you couldn't work. When you've been off of work for that amount of time, and you're being threatened legally with, $1,000, $2,500 fines if you are caught working,
Yeah.
but you have kids to feed, what are you supposed to do? You're forcing people to make not good decisions because they don't have the support that they need.
Right.
And I don't want to go to work at King Supers right now. If I was the single mom that had no other income, whatever, and that's a choice that you end up having to make, but then who's going to watch your kid? What if you don't have a family support system? So there's so many facets to this situation that, yeah, I could see why you wanted to take a couple weeks off
Ugh.
to figure out how to be a mom and a
Yeah.
teacher. And crazy.
Yeah, because same thing. I'm like, well, am I just expecting my girls to know how to get onto their computers every day? They're only 10 and 8. And it's like, is it fair for them to be home all day long every day when they want to be at school? They want to do these things. And it's just like, oh, it's just so much. But we could go down that rabbit hole for days. But so during your time off, and maybe you want to tell me your story, you just kind of said a little bit about it. Like, what made you decide to start making the masks, and are you giving them away? Are you selling them? Like, and how many masks have you done? And I seen that your local, one of your local TV stations had done a story on you. I had seen that you had posted that on Facebook. And so I think you were working like 18 hours a day making these masks. Like, what the heck? So what got you started on doing this, and how's that all playing out for you?
The government decided to close us down on the 18th, was the last day that we were supposed to work. Because of the fact that I have my salon in my basement, I still continued to take my people for a few days after that. Because again, I know the precautions that I'm taking in place already. And I have a closer relationship with my clients for the years that we have, they already know, if you're sick, don't bring that to me. If you don't feel well, if you don't, whatever, don't bring that to me, because I am a single mom. And if I can't work, that means I can't provide for my kid, and I can't afford to do that. So I am the type of person that, even though if I see him, cough over here or something, I won't do it right when they're there. But as soon as they leave, I'll be there with a Clorox wipe, wiping everything down, because I can't take that chance, and I don't want somebody else to get sick, whether it's just a common cold or whatever.
Yeah.
So I did work for a few days after that. But I had seen an article from a local news place that said that a local doctor's office was asking for masks, and they had completely run out. Their office staff had completely run out of all the PPE, and they're like, anything is better than nothing at this point. So whatever you can do to help. And I'm like, well, I could do that. But I'm like, surely if salons aren't essential, Joann's, Hobby Lobby, anywhere where you can get fabric from, they're not essential, because you are not like in a position where you're actively helping people. Like, so surely they can't be. And, to my surprise, okay, call them. Yep, you can get fabric. You could be able to do this. And then I have one of my clients who, she actually owns a quilt shop And I got with her and I'm like, what are you doing all this? Have you had to shut down? What's your position? And she actually spent, it was like at midnight or something, that she sat down with me and told me the best way to cut the fabric to get the most out of them, how to make them totally and completely. And she was still working at that point in time. So this was a personal, I love you, you're my friend, let me help you out. And from that point forward, I started making masks, as much as I could. And I was still taking some clients in between. And I got a phone call from one of my clients that she's an ex-police officer. And the story that she told me of, some of her friends that are in, those service industries, I'll just say it like that, like people that are in emergency situations, had come in contact with people that had COVID. And when they asked their bosses if they could have proper, care, masks, different gloves, whatever, for now coming in contact with people, they were not given a very appropriate response. And I broke down into tears as I'm working on this person, getting this phone call, because to find out that the people that are supposed to be protecting us and are expected to work, these long shifts, directly dealing with this, have to be away from their families in some cases because you don't want to bring that home back to your family, that those people are not being protected by the people that are supposed to protect them. I was done. I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't do the services anymore because I felt so like I felt like I was being so selfish, of a person to, do this when I could make a better difference. I had a greater purpose at that point in time.
Right.
And even leading up to that, I would wake up in the middle of the night and I just kept on having these feelings and this, this voice that's just, right now, I have a different purpose for you. And everything that you need will be provided for you. So to take that leap of faith and say, I don't know how I'm going to feed my kid. I don't know how I'm going to pay my mortgage because no stimulus, no unemployment, no nothing, whatever. But I'm going to take this leap. And because I don't want anybody that can't afford to be able to get a mask to be walking around with a bandana that has no real protection, I'm going to do it for donation. I have a little bit of money in my savings. So I'm going to do whatever I can without drowning myself to be able to make sure that these people have protection. And from that day forward, I converted my dining room where I'm at now into my sewing area. So we set up tables. My kitchen table has now become like my cutting and pinning area. I got a big board donated. It's like this huge ironing board from my quilter person. She had set up a different station and she's like, here, I'm not using this. You take it. And then my mom found out she was going to help make some masks here and there. She came down and saw what I was doing. And in the beginning of it, I had some of the days where it was like 48 plus hours where I didn't sleep because it weighed so much on my heart that these people are going without. And I'm like, if I want you to protect me, the least I can do is try to protect you. So she then said, I can't let you do this either. She does like windows and doors and things blinds, like custom window coverings, whatever. And so they weren't working anymore either. So from that day forward, she has come down here, spent the weekend with me, been driving back and forth to Denver. So that's like an hour drive. And she was that person on the team. And then my mother-in-law she's my iron person. So she irons, put the filters in. Once the nose piece gets put in, she flips it over to be ready to be pinned. And then one of my client's friend, she wanted to do this as well on a bigger scale. So she's my pinner now. And there's like 4 of us that are hardcore every day. One of my other stylist friends, she was in a position where she wasn't getting her checks and wasn't getting any income during this point in time. So she started helping me out with nose pieces, and then she like became like our personal chef. So I paid her for all the groceries. I paid her to cook everything. So that way, hopefully, she loves to cook. So this could bring some happiness to her. And she was helping feed us all because I also wasn't eating anything. Like a cup of nuts is good for me. My son is 11 years old. So, he's like, oh, I want a peanut butter sandwich or I want a whatever. He doesn't need a big meal or doesn't care about any of that stuff. So he was eating whatever he wanted to eat. And, fast food or delivery pizza is great for him. Whereas I'm used to eating all home cooked meals. So having to be able to give her, a new purpose and give her some income during this was a good thing for me. And everybody that I've brought into this or that has offered, I haven't necessarily taken them up on that because I also have to trust that these people are being safe. Because if you're out there doing all kind of crazy stuff or you wipe your nose and then keep sewing or whatever, I don't want to take the chance that this stuff that we're doing to protect you is going to end up being the thing that gets you infected. So everybody has to be trusted that their environment is clean. Every single day we go through and vacuum and Clorox and everything, this whole area to make sure that it's as safe as possible. And I can't tell you exactly how many we turn out a day, but I'd say at this point, we're probably close to 3,500 of them. And I still have orders, and orders. And then another thing that was like really inspirational is I had some other nail techs reach out to me and they said that they wanted me to show them how to make the masks. So I did a Facebook Live, I think like during the week of like March 20th or something. And Amy, it was Amy Wilson that she wanted me to do that because she said, help me out, that she wanted to jump on board doing them too. And it was about an hour long Facebook, but I walked through the entire thing. You have a yard of fabric. This is how you cut it. This is how you iron it. This is how you pleat it, just like my quilt person had taught me. And she was the first person that had reached out and followed it. And she went out and bought enough to make 300 masks. And she started doing that as her, like a supplemental income for her. So I was just doing this pure donation wise, whereas a lot of other techs, started trying to do it as like, here's the retail, kind of this to be able to continue to support themselves. And was another one. She was making the masks to give out and donate. Her community kind of got together and they all were making PPE for their local hospitals and stuff. She shared that video with even her sewing people, her sewing group. And I'm like, I'm not like a professional sewer. You're sharing my video with professional sewers? Like,
you're like,
you're gonna think like, oh my God. And she said, just little things like chain sewing stuff. So you don't use as much thread. It also helps keep the binding more even, so I felt like it was important for me to share what was shared with me, because it's been so instrumental in being able to mass make these and to know that that's helped other people within my nail tech community. That made me even happier. And so we've kind of become even more of a support group during that, through those hard times of, hey, this person's saying this about me, or the fabric isn't working, or because if you run out of elastic, what do you do now, right? What do you use in place of that? So being able to be helpful to not only the people, the community, my community that needs the face masks to help them, but also to the nail tech community and help getting them through all of this time. Because even though I've only done donation, and people like, oh, well, how much, would you charge for the mask? I don't know. So mine are more in depth. It is 2 layers of quilters quality cotton, not a bed sheet or not whatever. Yeah. We use the non-woven filter material in the middle of it. It has a wire nose piece in it. The elastics that are onto there. Now we have a bead to make them adjustable. So all of that, if I didn't get a discount on the fabric, if I had to pay full price for it, I'm like, it would be in between $4 and $5 a mask. some people are selling them for $2 or $3. There is no way that it's comprised of the way that it needs to be, and you're selling it for that amount, because the cost of materials, cutting blades, all the needles that we've broken, and pins. Like, I just today placed another order for another 2,000 pins, because sometimes the pins get bent when you go and put them in, and all those costs come together. And I'm like, this would be an average, okay, of $4 to $5, depending on what that is. Every other day I get an order of fabric from my local quilt person that a couple of weeks ago that I had spent $1,700 in supplies to her. And I asked her, I'm like, am I helping you or am I hurting you? Because sometimes you don't know, right? And I know that she's under a lot of stress with taking her orders and things like that. I'm like, I want to get all my fabric from you if I can. But is it more stressful to deal with it, at this point in time? And she's like, nope, you're helping me. So I'm sure it's probably close to 3,000, maybe 3,500 or something now, because that was a while ago. But that's just that. Shipping them out to people. I have offered it to anybody, everywhere. It doesn't matter, because I've been able to utilize my business website to create the shipping labels, so you get a little bit of a discount on it. And then I don't have to go to the post office and sit there at the machine, putting everything in, taking time, exposure, whatever. And I never thought to utilize my business website in the beginning, but it saved so much on paperwork, because they can place an order through there. They aren't allowed to pay for anything on the site. They can't pay for shipping or anything, because I don't want any money running for all this stuff I'm donating, right, saying that my generating income, right? And that creates frustration with people, because they're like, well, I want to donate. I'm like, that's fine. When you get your mask, here's my personal PayPal, or you can do cash or check or something at delivery, or make me a homemade meal. I've gotten jewelry as a trade for it. It's just kind of this cool thing. And I never thought that it would be where it's at right now, all because, I had that voice telling me that I needed to fulfill a greater purpose, and everything that I need will be provided for me. Like, I bought enough elastic for 2,100 masks, and I didn't realize that in the beginning. I just went to the Dollar Tree and I'm like, here's some elastics. Great. Walked to, the 5 different stores with a small bag out of each one of them. And when I got it home and laid it all out, ooh, now I'm going to be accused of like hoarding elastic or something, right? And the back end of me said, everything that you need will be provided for you. I'm like, you won't be sitting at that sewing machine for a long time if you're going to be making 2,100 masks. And sure enough, we went through that. And now I've placed basically for 8 boxes of elastic from them through the shipping website and everything. It would be another $800 worth. And I have still, like, other than the unemployment income that I'm now getting checks for and the stimulus check, I haven't gotten any other income. But my utilities are paid. My phone is paid. We have been using that money, like that supplies our lunch. I'll buy a lunch for everybody that's here. And then that's my leftovers for dinner and for breakfast. So all of my necessity items have been provided for me, and I've never once charged for the masks.
Oh, that's so awesome. I love that story, and I love your heart. And I am so, so glad that you listened to that voice and are doing amazing things. This is just a really neat story, Genesis. Like, you should just be so proud of yourself. And I love what you're doing. I didn't talk to you much. We've been on here for like almost an hour, well, over an hour already. So let's tell everybody, like, you have a supply store also. Like, give us your website so people can check all that other stuff out for about you. Tell us your social media handles, because I want everybody to follow you. If they want masks, they can get with you. If they want to learn how to make them, maybe they can find that video that you made. So tell us just where everybody can find you, Genesis.
So my business website for the supply house is sozoeducationandbeautysupply.com. Tell me if you can see it, because when I flip it over, I can't see where it's at. But
Oh, yep. I can see it.
Okay, so I wonder, does it appear reversed?
No, it's good for me. Yep, I
Okay.
can see it.
Okay.
Yep.
So that would be the website address to go to, and then hopefully, like, they could scan it maybe to go to the Facebook. But the business Facebook is Sozo Education and Beauty Supply. It's kept pretty simple. My
Okay.
personal one, Genesis Ward, and that's where the videos are posted for the mask making
Okay.
stuff. And if they want to be able to order any of the masks, I'm still taking the orders for them. I have it on there that it said it could take more than a week for us to be able to fulfill your orders, because after they did that local news show, I'm still filling orders right now that were taken on the 17th. And I'm like, it breaks my heart, but I'm like, I'm doing everything that I
Yeah.
can. I can't
Yeah.
body. And if they're patient, then I'll fulfill the order for them.
Awesome.
Still such a needed thing. And I think, on the business side of it, I wouldn't have thought about the fact that these are actually masks that I could wear in the salon all day, whereas the normal medical ones I couldn't. So it's kind of interesting how this situation has happened, and this might be something that I end up selling on the website eventually. That wouldn't have ever even been a thought in my head, because
Yeah.
the way we're making them is really comfortable.
That's
Um,
awesome.
I would say I'm most active on Instagram and Facebook. I do have a couple of YouTube videos on the YouTube channel, which that was something I was getting even more into before all this, trying to do competition videos, showing people real life timed. I videotaped myself at a competition at the ice show, so that people could hear what's going on and see what's going on. And that's going to be more of the content that I would be offering on my YouTube channel, is not just salon education stuff, but taking them through the whole competition circuit, start to finish, and practicing competitions with me, things like that. But yeah.
Awesome. Well, I will get those links from you also, and then I will post them on the YouTube channel, the Tribe Nail Tech YouTube channel. And so that way they can find you and they can find your other links. So follow her on Instagram, follow her on Facebook, guys. And I'm so glad I got to talk to you today. So interesting. So many wonderful things that you're doing. So thank you so much, Genesis.
Yep, no problem. Thank you for inviting me.
Okay. Talk to you later.